With street protests in Egypt showing little sign of abating, the dispute is now moving to a political battleground. The government is holding talks with the country's main opposition groups and already agreed reforms to try to end the uprising over the last 2 weeks against President Mubarak. But the opposition says this is not enough to end the standoff. RT's Paul Sleer has more from Cairo.
The talks are progressing slowly, which is not a surprise to anyone here because there really are a lot of issues that need to be discussed and a lot of players who are putting their future and their reputation on the line. What is significant is that it has been agreed that a committee will be established to study constitutional reform and that this committee has been given a deadline of 1 month in which to deliver its findings. It has also been agreed that the state of emergency here will be lifted. Now, on Sunday, the Vice President Omar Suleiman met with various opposition groups, and within those groups were representatives of secular parties, were representatives of the Muslim Brotherhood, were independent legal experts, as well as a number of representatives for Mohammed al-Baradei, and he of course is the former head of the International Atomic Energy Agency, who has indicated that he will be prepared to head an interim government. The Muslim Brotherhood really is the focus of the discussion and the debate here in Egypt, because before yesterday they said that they would not meet with the government if at first there was not agreement on the President Hosni Mubarak stepping down. The Brotherhood has been at pains to say that they have not changed their stance. They have called these kind of discussions talks and not negotiations, and what we do understand is that there will be further talks today, Monday. But what is noticeable is that the opposition voices are not that unified. They certainly do need somebody to bring them together, to keep the momentum and to represent their point of view, because by and large, every day that these groups meet with the government, despite their call for Mubarak to step down immediately, it is indicative that Mubarak has more time, and he is certainly perceived as winning this battle the longer he has to negotiate with these opposition groups. The Muslim Brotherhood poses more questions for the international community than it does answers. They have been banned in Egypt, and they raise alarm bells to observers of what is going on here, because increasingly it is felt that these protests and these demonstrations have taken an Islamist and almost extremist chant on the streets of Cairo. I explored this phenomenon earlier in this package.
It didn't get more than a passing mention in the mainstream media. Hezbollah, Hamas and Muslim Brotherhood members in a jailbreak.
They escaped from here and went to Lebanon. There's no way to go to Lebanon from Egypt, only to go through the sea or to fly.
So who helped them? Any one of the thousands of protesters on Egypt's streets. Support for the demonstrators has fled fast, and although the Muslim Brotherhood, the country's largest opposition group with an Islamist agenda, got involved only on day 3, that, says Mamdouh Ramzi, is part of the plan.
The Muslim Brotherhood will appear when they're sure the presidency will fall, and when they have the support and power to control everything. They work in every Arab country. They're there below the surface.
And they're there now, talking with the government. And their supporters are here, shouting on the streets. In 2 weeks of demonstrations, their rallying call hasn't changed. Step down Mubarak. Ahmed and 11 of his friends travelled for 48 hours to get here. They've come all the way from Eritrea to be part of what they believe is the new revolution sweeping the Middle East.
I was in Eritrea and I watched everything on TV. I wish I was here before, but coming here now is my contribution.
I'm asking all my brothers in Egypt to express their opinion without fear. We will never leave the blood of our martyrs who were killed in this revolution without revenge.
The Brotherhood gets some of its funding from Iran, and Tehran is already cashing in. Its foreign minister says the protests show the need for an overhaul in the region, and Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has called the protests an Islamic awakening.
There's an opportunity for an increased role for Muslims in the international arena from a political and an economic perspective for the first time in quite a long while.
6 years ago, the American National Intelligence Council, which is linked to the CIA, warned of exactly this. It mapped out a report on the global future. It consisted of a caliphate, one big Muslim state, created through social unrest, a slowdown in the economy, and fueled by religious movements.
If such a pan-regional union did genuinely come into being, such a regional union would necessitate the breaking of very strong, very resistant bonds that exist between the US and many of the participants in such a putative Arab-Muslim world.
And the US is already feeling the heat, with confusing messages coming from an administration that's unsure what to do. When the protests first started, President Obama was careful not to abandon his old friend Hosni Mubarak, but his loyalties soon shifted, and he sided with the protesters to try and keep on top of things.
For sure, if the Muslim Brotherhood reach the top of Egypt, they will impose their special agenda. They'll go ahead to establish a religious state. And despite them saying they don't want to be in the government, they do. They want to rule Egypt.
And it's not just Egypt, many fear.
Much of the Arab world today is saying if it can happen in the streets of Cairo, perhaps it can happen here. So democracy does seem to be spreading.
So as the Brotherhood sits down for talks with a government it despises, it's not just Egypt's future that's at stake, but so too that of the region.
2 weeks ago, if you would have asked anyone here whether they could envisage the Muslim Brotherhood sitting down with the government and talking, it would have been unthinkable. That just gives you an indication of how far this country has come in a fortnight.